and today, after the weekend, I have a whole host of royal stories to talk about today. So, without further ado, let's just get into it. By the way, I always have to check the date because the days and times just seem to be flying away from us. It is the 29th of May. Can you believe it is almost June? I literally cannot. So, I'm hoping you can hear me this time and we have no audio issues because I had to re upload the last live session. I had to re-upload it, so I'm hoping you all got to catch it, whether it was the original chat version or the re-uploaded version. Okay, so the first story that I want to get into today is about the Buckingham Palace swimming pool. Now, some of you may not even know that Buckingham Palace has a swimming pool, and it's not the only royal residence that does have a swimming pool. I can confirm it does indeed have a swimming pool. It's not a fake story. And also, I'll be answering comments and questions as I go, and we'll be stopping to talk about things. So Buckingham Palace does have a swimming pool. Also, Windsor Castle has a swimming pool as well. Now, the Buckingham Palace swimming pool is not just a private swimming pool. Obviously, it is used by members of the royal family, and they normally like to swim alone, shall we say. I don't think that there's like lots of sort of group sessions where like Camilla is there with Catherine and they're going for a swim. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but normally the royals like to sort of book themselves in for slots. In fact, lots of the royal family historically learnt to swim, or it's rumoured that they learned to swim at the Buckingham Palace swimming pool. But like I said, it's not just a private swimming pool. It's also used by senior members of the royal household. It's not always been that way. I think that was introduced probably sometime in the 80s. So I think that's a good thing. It's not just, a pool that's being kept privately for the royals. But this story has kind of come about because obviously royal finances are fairly open, and the utility bill for all of the royal palaces and that sort of the public expenditure part of it came in at £3.2 million, which is a lot of money. And of course, we are living in a cost of living crisis at the moment, and to avoid, I suppose, being seen as being too exuberant, Charles, the king, is trying to crack down on wasted expenditure. So, the thermostat at the Buckingham Palace swimming pool has been turned down. Now, I don't know what temperature to. I don't know if Charles is making everyone swim in freezing, bracing temperatures, but the thermostat has been taken down a few notches. And I think lots of people have been doing that in their own homes, turning the thermostat down, turning the water temperature down on their boiler, all that kind of thing to save some money. So I think there's two things to take away. Oh, and probably that will be the same, I imagine, for the Windsor Castle pool as well. But the Windsor Castle pool is just a private pool. I think it was opened up during the pandemic for members of the public. I do believe could actually go to the Windsor Castle pool, but now that one is completely private. So, like I said, it tells us two very important things. One, that there is a certain level of luxury at the palace, as you would expect. By the way, the actual pool was put in by the Queen's father, George VI, in, when I say Queen, I mean the late Queen, in 1938. And it was put in actually to indulge his love of swimming, but also Princess Margaret and Princess Elizabeth at the time when they were children. So, it was, I suppose, a more recent addition, very historic palace. So, like I say, it tells us two things. One, that there is a certain level of luxury, and that two, he is being incredibly conscientious about cost and about the burden on the taxpayer. But also, he knows that if money is saved on the utility bills, it doesn't just go back into the public purse. That money can then be utilised elsewhere in the royal household on other things, such as, for example, maintaining the buildings, which would have to be maintained whether or not they were in royal sort of possession or not, if you like. If even if there was no monarchy, the palace would still have to be maintained. So I think any savings where you can make them and then they can be redistributed elsewhere is very important. And it does show that our king is very conscientious of the environment, and he's not just putting, he is putting, his money where his mouth is, so to speak. He is acting upon what he preaches. Also at Clarence House, his royal home in London, he's installed solar panels. Also at Highgrove, his country retreat, solar panels. So I imagine at some point the palace will be upgraded to have lots of eco-friendly additions to it. Perhaps we will see solar panels on the Buckingham Palace roof. Perhaps we'll see them at Windsor Castle. And I think the late Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip, installed, I think, heat source pump at Windsor Castle. So I think the royal residences under Charles are going to be upgraded, and the government in the UK's target is to go net zero by 2050. And it is rumoured that the king wants to make the royal household and all the palaces and homes net zero before 2050. So Charles is definitely in a hurry to get things done. Now, I want to talk about, I want to go to the chat room and see what people are saying about all of that. Yes, I am wearing Granny's chips, and there is a reason for that. They are replicas of the Cullinan diamonds, because we're going to be talking about Queen Mary and her possible kleptomania later, and also the Koh-I-Noor as well. Let's have a look. Oh, and what tiara am I wearing? I'm wearing the Duchess Augusta tiara today. Hello to everyone who is joining in the chat. I can't say hello to everyone individually, but hello wherever you are. Linda says he could heat the pool with solar panels. Exactly, like I said, I imagine there will be upgrades and additions coming in thick and fast during his reign. I'm not saying that the late Queen wasn't an innovator in that way. I don't think that was her level of interest. I think it was more Prince Philip that introduced certain eco measures to the royal household. But it really is Charles the King's passion in life, conservation, eco. So I do think he will be taking things forward to get everything ready for the future, so that it's all done by the time William becomes king. Right, I am now going to move on to the next story, which is actually, let me just turn to it, Sarah Ferguson. The Duchess of York, or rather Sarah, Duchess of York, never seems to disappoint, does she? And this story just reinforces previous comments that I have made in videos about potentially her future and what it might pertain to perhaps remarrying Prince Andrew. So the headline reads, Duchess of York in lone battle after company crashes with £19 million debts. Now we know from Sarah herself that she has been the breadwinner of the family over the past couple of years. And she's quite, I think, enjoyed doing that. And we know that being sort of on the outskirts of the royal family, not married to Prince Andrew, not having an HRH, not having an actual title. Don't forget, Duchess of York is not her title. It's almost used as her surname. She's styled as a divorced woman. She's not the Duchess of York. So it gives her a certain amount of freedom to make her own money, to sign her own deals, to get whatever loans she wants, to write whatever things that she wants. But she has, I think, in the past been respectful of the royal family, even though she's given Oprah interviews and all that sort of thing. She's never really, dissed the royal family. She's revealed things, but she's never taken it to that level where she's dissed the royal family. She's been an embarrassment to the royal family over the years. But this is just another example of how, when sort of royals or ex-royals are kind of cut loose from the family, that things can go a little bit wrong. And Sarah apparently was sort of one of the directors of a company that had loans, and then the company folded and it's not been paid back. And then something along the lines of she offered some money and then that was declined, and then potentially she could be sued for 19 million, which the actual debt that she owed, I don't think was 19. Well, the loans weren't worth 19 million. And I'm not quite sure how much debt gets written off once a company folds and goes into liquidation. But anyway, potentially she could be sued for $19 million. 19 million pounds, I should say. I'm not sure what that is, the translation rate in dollars. So takes me back to my earlier point. I'm not going to go into all the legalities of this particular case because it hasn't emerged particularly yet. Sarah, I think, although she has the freedom to do what she wants and make money, it often gets royals into a little bit of a pickle, into a little bit of a mess. And I think that if she remarried Prince Andrew and, again, perhaps lived off the allowance of whatever the king was able to give, potentially there could be a rehabilitation into some kind of public life where Sarah could sort of excel in what she does best. Her personality is one of the major selling points of Sarah's, of what she has to offer, I suppose. So would Sarah remarry Andrew just to kind of get the finances in order, so to speak, to get this sort of legal battle off of her back? Would she do it to rehabilitate Andrew's reputation as a unit? Would they be stronger within the royal family, within the royal fold? I'm not entirely certain, but certainly this highlights the going alone aspect. It can get you into deep and hot water. Treading that fine line between royalty and a private individual is not easy for an ex royal. And this just goes to massively prove that. So let me know what you think about all of that. Oh, Larumba going back to the swimming pool. Uh, Ari, the household staff, having use of the Buckingham Palace swimming pool. I'm daydreaming about Johnny swimming in his tartan trunks in his lunch hour. Well, my goodness. I mean, book me in. Book me in. I am there. I'm living for Johnny in the pool. Book me in. I'll have a double session and I'll stay twice as long. Seriously, no. Apparently, though, the staff don't clash with the royals. So, for example, if Princess Anne is going for a swim, Johnny isn't going to book the same session as Princess Anne. I imagine the staff probably swim together. So yes, Major Johnny, if you're looking and watching this video, book me in for a palace session. Hopefully, there's some sort of massage at the end of it, showers, the lot. Anyway, moving on. Massively moving on. We'll leave Sarah Ferguson behind. Now, the next story, Princes William and Harry were supposedly last met Paul Burrell, Diana's footman, for 10 years before she passed away. He was still a current member of staff in 1997. Apparently, they had no contact with him since 1997 after the funeral. However, a story has emerged from a royal source. Now, I'm suspecting that I have a sneaky suspicion that the royal source is, in fact, Paul Burrell himself. The article doesn't sort of delve into it, kind of quotes sources. But as we know, sources are often well placed people either within the institution or people, principles that the article is talking about. I'm guessing, I'm going to take a major leap and guess and say that Paul Burrell, who is, I think, a little bit annoyed perhaps at definitely Harry, will read in a moment. I think he just wanted to sort of get this out there, and of course, Harry kind of bashed Paul in his memoir Spare, which I think was a little bit ironic and contradictory, but we'll get to that anyway. So apparently, a secret meeting took place with Paul Burrell just before Harry and Meghan's wedding in 2017. And William and Harry are said to have wanted some sort of closure or to kind of clarify certain points about her life because, of course, Their memories, as we can definitely tell from Spare, are a little bit hazy when it comes to certain aspects of her life, whereas Paul Burrell was an adult working for Diana for those 10 years from 1987 until her death in 1997. So he will have a much better sort of adult memory. Don't forget, adult memories do fade as well, with the haze of time. But his memories, I think, will be probably slightly better than perhaps the more vivid, distorted memories of Harry and William. Um, so they wanted a low key meeting where, it wouldn't be revealed that they had had a meeting. This potentially could have happened. I'm not going to say that it didn't. I'm not going to say that it did. But I am going to say that I do believe that this has come from Paul Burrell. So they asked to keep it all under wraps, and he respected that. I mean, nobody else would know that other than Paul Burrell. Paul was happy to tell them everything he knew and shed some light on their memories. Um, Potentially, Harry may even have used some of what Paul told him in the book Spare. Um, so the brothers previously accused Paul of a cold and overt betrayal because, of course, he published a book in 2001 called A Royal Duty, which contained lots of sort of private information. Now, Harry wrote about the book in his autobiography, memoir Spare, describing how he learned of the book when he was working as an unpaid farmhand in Australia, aged 19 in 2003. Now, I don't think the timings are quite right, Ian, because in 2000, the book was apparently out in 2001. So in 2003, he definitely would have known about that before 2003 because a statement was put out by the palace. So I think either the article got the dates wrong or there's something wrong with the dates anyway. The dates don't quite add up. So don't go by the dates in this article. Harry wrote that he received a package from Buckingham Palace, which was full of memos from the palace communications team about a delicate matter. Mummy's former butler had penned a tell-all, which actually told nothing, he said. It was merely one man's, this is the ironic bit, pot, kettle, and black, I think. It was merely one man's self-justifying, self-centering version of events. Now, where have we heard that before? Where have we heard someone coming up with one man's self-justifying, self-centering version of events? Where's my fan? Come on, if ever anything deserved a fan flap. I mean, come on. Pot, kettle, and black, as the saying goes. How on earth can Harry accuse Paul Burrell in a demeaning way of putting out there a one-man self-justifying, self-centering version of events for money when Harry has done exactly the same thing with his own family, with his memo Spare? I mean, I can't flap enough. I can't. My fan is going to flap out in a moment. I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it, my loves. I really couldn't. How on earth can he justify calling Paul Burrell out on something that he has done himself to his own family? My goodness. Anyway, he said, my mother once called this butler a dear friend, trusted him implicitly. We did too. Now well, I'm sure Harry's own family at one time could have said the same thing about him, that they trusted him implicitly. I'm just saying. Anyway, he was milking her disappearance for money. Well, again, where have we heard that before? Who else has been milking their family for money? It made my blood boil. Well, maybe he needs to think about how his family's blood might be boiling at what he's done with Oprah and Netflix and Spare. Harry writes that he wanted to fly home to confront Mr. Burrell, but Charles and William talked him out of it, saying all they could do was issue a united condemnation. Okay, well, it's a shame he didn't want to fly home, to be with Her late Majesty and Duke of Edinburgh when they were gravely ill. The Duke also claims that he had nothing to do with the drafting of the Clarence House statement and that he would have gone much further. Well, I'm sure he would, as we're seeing from today, with all the legal action that's going on. Meanwhile, Paul has criticised Harry for some of his revelations in Spare, saying he doesn't recognise who the prince has become. I think a lot of people can say that. Speaking on Australian breakfast show Sunrise earlier this year, Paul said, I first met him in his mummy's tummy. I don't recognise the young man I see today. That's not the boy I knew. What I see now is an angry, petulant, privileged prince who is constantly blaming other people and not taking accountability on his part. He added that the Duke of Sussex had changed fundamentally and that his mother would be appalled. She would be angry at these personal vindictive revelations which don't just undermine Harry, but his country, his family, and the institution, which his mother was very proud of, and his late grandmother's legacy. Now, Buckingham Palace and Paul Burrell were contacted but were quoted as having no comment. I personally still think that this came from Paul Burrell himself. Let me know what you. Oh, lots of people sending the black fan emoji. Um, Modern Monarchy says, "Don't break the fan." Well, it was almost flapped out. It really was. So yes, make of that what you will. I think it's come from Paul Burrell, but like again, let me know exactly what you think. Right, next, moving on, I want to talk about Princess Olga Romanov. Now, Princess Olga is, as her name suggests, a member of the Russian Romanov family, and she currently resides in the UK. She's got a nice, really nice home. She's been on a few TV programs, and she's revealed things about Queen Mary, of course, the late Queen's grandmother, things that we already knew. So this isn't really new news. It's just something that I think is kind of resurfaced again, and people are talking about it. So I will talk about it. So not Princess, Queen Mary, when she was Queen Consort and thereafter, when of course she was a Dowager Queen, when her husband George V passed away, had a history. She was a bit of a magpie. I mean, she loved the jewellery. She is a woman after my own heart. I think I would have got on quite well with Queen Mary. So I'm going to give Queen Mary a nice red fan flap but she was said to be a bit of a magpie, and it's the first time I've really heard the phrasing kleptomania. So I did look at what kleptomania actually meant in terms of a dictionary definition. So kleptomania, pronounced kleptomania, is a mental health disorder that involves repeatedly being unable to resist urges to steal items that you generally don't really need. Often the items stolen have little value and you could afford to buy them. Kleptomania is rare but can be a serious condition. So at the end of all of this, do let me know whether or not you think that Queen Mary had kleptomania. But she was renowned for, well, first of all, she wanted to get back a lot of jewelry that had gone, either through inheritance or whatever. She wanted to get back a lot of items in the royal collection, including jewelry pieces, not the Cullinan, but other sort of jewelry pieces that had been given away or whatever. She wanted to get them back, and she wanted them for free. She didn't even want to pay for them. She wanted her freebies. She wanted her swag bag, basically. So she was a bit of a one. She was a bit of a sort. Anyway, she used to go to aristocratic families' homes, and if she liked something, let's just say she liked a dining chair, and there was a set of 12, she would just say, "Ooh, ooh," and she had a very thick German accent. Uh, so I can't do a German accent. We said, "Oh, I like that chair," and she would expect the hosts to offer to give her those chairs, or indeed the whole dining set, or if there was a trinket that she liked. Oh, I like that candlestick. Well, I would be expected to say, "Oh, well, Your Majesty, would you like it? Would you like it as a gift?" Uh, so, so she didn't overtly steal things, but she expected them. And I think so. For me, was it was it kleptomania, Or was it just a sense of entitlement? I don't know. I mean, having not met her, having not been in her orbit, having not seen how she sort of operated, it's very hard to tell. When it comes to the royal collection, I think it's, that's quite in a way justifiable that she wanted to sort of reunite pieces that had been lost or given out back into the royal collection where she knew that they could be seen or used, for example, with jewelry, that pieces could emerge even decades later after not being used, and things could have a purpose for the future. But was it a sense of entitlement or kleptomania? I mean, do let me know, because I would be quite interested to find out on that one. um, I'm just reading. Oh, Becky thinks a sense of entitlement. Um, Tio says Queen Mary bought a ton of the Romanov jewels when the rest of the family came over after the murder of the Tsar and his family for much, much, much less. Yes, she wanted things for either free or she wanted to pay a very, 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 very low amount for things. She was very frugal, and in fact, um, Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, had a lot of Queen Mary in her in terms of being frugal. Of course, the late Queen was very close to Queen Mary. She really loved Granny and Granny's chips. Lots of people are thinking it's sense of entitlement. So not many people are thinking, that she was an upmarket kleptomaniac, so to speak. And just in case people don't know who we're talking about, that is Queen Mary there. I've got her a bit in front of me. She was definitely a complete royal magpie. So she'd say things like, "Ooh, I do like this chair." So I think I'm going to try that. I'm going to go to people's houses. I'm going to see their nice, expensive. Ooh, I really do like that aftershave, and I'm going to expect people to give it me. Am I a kleptomaniac, or do I just have a self of entitlement, or am I just being a silly goose? Do let me know in the comment section below. Maybe we should all try it. Maybe we should all try doing it. Anyway, the next story I want to talk about. I don't want to yak at you for too long. We're all busy people, my loves. So Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, whatever you want to call her, the wife of Harry, skips a prestigious Women in Media Award gala in LA. So they aren't actually too far away from where it was held. I think it was held at the Beverly something or other. The Beverly Wiltshire Hotel. It sounds rather posh, doesn't it? Sounds rather industry. Anyway, apparently it's held yearly. She was given this award uh, two, two in under 2 weeks. She was given this award, but she didn't go this time, even though it was a lot closer than when she went to New York. I think it's only about 90 minutes away from where their home is in Montecito. But she played it low. She actually released a statement, and apparently, sources behind the scenes were saying that they didn't even know whether or not she was going to turn up within the last sort of final hours. So I think she'd been invited, and she sort of kept them on tenterhooks whether or not she was going to attend, either by herself or with Harry. Turns out, obviously, transpires that she didn't turn up, and she just sort of had a little statement. So the statement was, "Thank you to the Alliance for Women in Media Foundation for this prestigious honor. Um, this is a shared success for me and the team behind Archetypes, most of whom are women, and the inspiring guests who joined me each week." So we don't know whether or not she was going to attend, but she didn't. Why was this? I mean, if you're being given an honor and you don't live too far away, perhaps you should have made the effort to go, people are saying. But of course, this comes a week after the near catastrophic car chase I mean, whatever it was, PR wise, that did not go down well. I think either in the States. I mean, just Whoopi Goldberg's reaction was enough. And then in the UK, it certainly didn't go down very well. I think people were just kind of seeing through it for what it was. So has Megan 2.0 been trying to lie low the past week? Did she not attend because she didn't want to kind of reignite press attention and dig over the whole New York story? I think the Sussexes want that story dead and buried. They want that gone. I think it's been a massive backfire on them. Now that we've got the passage of time, of course, if Harry was trying to orchestrate it to try and get, protection, that didn't go down very well, and he certainly didn't get what I think he was hoping for. Of course, that case rumbles on with the initial decision, so I'm sure we'll hear what's going on with that in time. But do let me know why you don't think Meghan turned up to receive her award. She only lives about 90 minutes away, closer than New York. I don't know. Hello to everyone who is just kind of joining in. Christine thinks she's in hiding. Queen Mary, I don't think, well, I read a little bit on Queen Mary, and apparently she was the first sort of wife in a few generations to sort of marry in whose first language was actually English, but she spoke in a heavy German accent. I would have, I'm sure there probably is a recording out there of her voice, but I probably need to go and listen. Trisha says Megan should have gone. I'm from the States in Los Angeles, is far different than New York. Yes. So the plot thickens as to kind of what's going on with kind of cat and mouse game that's going on with the press. Anyway, I move on. Next, I want to talk about the crown jewels and, of course, the Koh-I-Noor controversial diamond. So the Koh-I-Noor is a 130-carat diamond that has its origins. Well, it has dubious origins, but I think one of the origins is India. And round the time of Queen Victoria, for years, and years, the sort of official line is that it was a gift from the 10-year-old, I think, the Maharaja of the Sikh Empire. So I'm not going to go into all the historical detail. I've only picked out the very important points. But now it seems that the royal collection has kind of had a re-evaluation. Now this might fit in with Charles's own kind of wanting to acknowledge the royal family's historical links potentially to slavery and other such things, to actually look at things through a modern lens of truth rather than sort of, you know, sort of the prism of the past and how it was presented in the past. So during a 4-year refurbishment of the Jewel House at the Tower of London, where all the crown jewels are housed, it opens and things have been updated. I saw the Tower of London Jewel House, probably before they started the renovation. So I really want to go back and have a look at what they've done. Apparently, you can actually now get a really, really close and proper look at all the different jewels, and things have been displayed in a better, more modern context. And one of those is, of course, the Koh-I-Noor. So the Queen Camilla chose not to have the Koh-I-Noor in the center of her crown that she was crowned with. Instead, she had Granny's chips, or some of Granny's chips, used in the crown, which I actually think was better. I preferred the Cullinan diamonds in her crown. In fact, I don't even like the Koh-I-Noor. I'm going to go on a big, massive limb here and say I actually think it's a bit of an ugly diamond. It looks very cyclopsy if it's put in the middle of a crown. It's too big to wear as a brooch. It really is just a really shiny rock, a very valuable one in its sort of intrinsic value. But there has been so now that it's sort of been said by the Royal Collection that it was taken, coerced from the Maharaja. Of course, the Maharaja came to the UK and was sort of sponsored and taken on by Queen Victoria, who also was Empress of India. So it's got a very contentious history. But now the British are saying that it was coerced and it was taken. Does that pave the way for the diamond to be sort of repatriated back to India? And I've been thinking about this and actually sort of what it means as a symbol to repatriate something that was coerced and taken historically. Now that the Koh-I-Noor is not being used in consort's crown, what actual use does it even have? If it's now shut away, or it is being displayed in the Queen Mother's consort's crown in the Jewel House, so you will kind of walk through and see the progression of history and where it is now. So it's currently in the Jewel House in the late Queen Mother's consort's crown. Anyway, if it doesn't have a functional use, remember the Koh-I-Noor, I do believe, is part now of the crown jewels, not the personal jewel collection. I imagine in time, Granny's chips will be returned to Charles and indeed Camilla so that she can wear them again. But it does get me thinking: do we even need the Koh-I-Noor? I mean, if it is it more of a symbol? I don't actually think it's about the value because the British aren't going to ever sell the Koh-I-Noor. I mean, the Koh-I-Noor, 130 carats, must be worth millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of pounds. If India had it back, would they sell it? I don't think they'd sell it. I think they'd either display it or use it or something of that nature. So in terms of money, nobody is going to really benefit from it. It almost makes it worthless. It's more of a symbol. It's more about what it represents, and it's more, I think, about what it means today. So, for example, if it was given back, if it was repatriated to India, that would be seen, I think, as a really good positive gesture moving forward. Is that going to happen? I'm not so sure because, of course, that could pave the way for other things to be repatriated. Is that the right thing to do? We spoke earlier about Queen Mary trying to repatriate things that she considered had been sort of given away or taken or sold by other people. So is it just the same thing flip reversed? Is it a double standard? To me personally, the Koh-I-Noor doesn't really mean that much. I don't even like it in terms of an actual diamond that was worn in the crown. So it wouldn't bother me if it went back, to be quite honest. But let me know. I'm really interested to see what people think about this. Should the Koh-I-Noor be repatriated back to India, or should it remain as in its current historical legacy? But as long as that legacy is being put out there truthfully, so that people can look at it and know that it was coerced and that it was taken. Does it actually matter where it is? Does it matter if it's in Britain or if it's in India, so long as it's being displayed in the correct context? Is it a case of it's the context that matters? Because I don't think it's about the intrinsic value, the financial value of it. It's a tricky situation, and one that I think people are going to have lots and lots and lots of different opinions on. So do please let me know in the comment section what you think about it. And also go see the Crown Jewels. If you are in London and you have not seen the Crown Jewels, then please, 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 please uh, go and see them because they are absolutely amazing. And you'll also see the Sword of State that Penny Mordaunt was holding for over almost 2 hours in front of her. It's all there, including the coronation ring. And there are some crown frames that are former crowns that are also on display. It's all incredibly fascinating. So if you are in London, do go to the Tower of London. Do stop by the Jewel House. Yes, Crimea River. The diamond has a very checkered past. In fact, India itself is not the only claim, as you rightly pointed out. The diamond also has links to Afghanistan. It's got an incredibly checkered history. So that's what I'm saying. Is it better to discuss all the options and just leave it where it is? Or, if it went back to India, Afghanistan, for example, might have a claim against India. It's all very contentious and a little bit messy. So I'm going to give the whole situation a bit of a fan flap in that regard, I'm afraid. Olympic says, I'd say give it back and just set a replica in the Queen Mother's crown. That indeed is one option. Linda says a Koh-I-Noor isn't necessary, give it back. And James says if they give it back, they might start asking for more. These are all valid points, and this is all why it's such a contentious issue. It's above my level, to be quite honest. So it's a diplomatic matter, and I think it's one that needs to be looked at the highest level. I don't even think King Charles has really got much say over it. This is government to government sort of level, to be quite honest. Yeah, three countries are claiming it. So what happens? It is very, 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 very contentious. Okay. And those are all of my royal stories for today. So I am going to love you and leave you. We've been chatting and yakking for 41 minutes. I hope that you have been entertained during this video. I do hope that you've even learnt something. I mean, wouldn't that be good? If you could come away from here, having listened to this chat, having actually learnt something, that would be that would be nice for me. So if you have learnt something, write it in a comment. Tell me what you've learned. So thank you for watching this video. I will be back with more stories this week. If you've enjoyed it, please give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and also share it across social media as well. Just copy the link and post it into your Facebook, post it into your Twitter, post it into your wherever it is that you post. I don't know where you go. Just don't post it on that OnlyFans. I don't want any of those OnlyFans people coming over. I don't want those. But no, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Post the link away. So from me in Shropshire, mwah to you all and goodbye.